What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here with the Nebula Music Podcast, and today I'm excited to be speaking with Siros Vaziri. Now, if you've never heard of Siros, he's an unbelievably talented drummer who's always posting really cool videos on Instagram and who essentially started the movement Fill of the Day. This is essentially where he teaches you how to play a drum fill and apply it to beats in less than 60 seconds. And let me tell you, this movement has exploded as well as his career. He's being sought out by the biggest drumming companies out there for endorsements, and he's not even stopping with that. He's got big goals, and I'm excited that I get a chance to speak with him because I admire him. I am a fan, and you know what? I don't want to waste any more time. So let's dive right in. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me again on this episode. I am beyond excited because today I have, well, let me just say this. I'm a big fan of this guy. I watch his stuff literally every day. This is Siros Vaziri. How are you, dude?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so excited that we get a chance to talk again. For those of you guys that are not aware, I think some of my fans already know the story of this podcast of how I started it and I had to restart it all over. But Siros was actually one of my first guests. In fact, I think you were either like the first or second person that I interviewed. And
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, you were like
cool.
you were literally like one of my first people to ever interview, and I lost that episode because of just technical difficulties and scheduling and all this stuff. I finally got a chance to sit down with you again and try this again, version 2.0, man. So I'm excited, dude. Like, Siros is a drummer. He's a fantastic, talented drummer on Instagram. He's always posting cool stuff, and since I last spoke to him a couple months ago, he's just exploded. And you're just like borderline famous at this point in the drumming world. So I don't want to waste any more time of me talking about you. I would much rather you talk about yourself. So to start it out, why don't you catch us up a little bit? Tell us maybe like where you're from, kind of what you're up to in your career, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So what basically the main bulk of what I do is I do social media stuff. Like, Instagram would be my main platform. Also Facebook, recently getting on more and more onto YouTube, is trying to expand my horizons with everything. I'm 22 years old, live in Sweden, born and raised here. My dad is from Iran, though, hence my Persian name and my Persian looks.
Nice.
But I don't know the language or anything, though. That's probably the most common question I get is like, are you from Iran? Like, can you speak Iranian? I'm like, sorry, can't do it. Again, I'm a freelance drummer. I play drums for a living, and a lot of what I do is social media. Basically, the way it started was after I was done with school, I finished school. I figured I didn't want to keep studying engineering, which was the track I was on. Instead, I wanted to really grab a hold of my dream of playing music for a living, playing drums for a living. So I just I live in a small town in Sweden with like 16,000 inhabitants, no music scene whatsoever.
Wow.
So I figured if I want to get out there, I need to use social media. There's no way for me to actually make a career just locally, and no one knows who I am, no one knows what I can do, and I needed to get some just find my way in the industry. So I started on social media, just made my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube accounts, just started posting videos, eventually finding my niche, and that was just over 3 years ago, like October 2014, and things have just kind of escalated in a pace I could never imagined since then. So, and here I am today doing this podcast. So you never know what's going to happen.
I know. It's, what? You started I forgot about that. You started at the exact same time that I did, October 2014.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think we both got started at the same time, posting different things. And for those of you guys that have never seen Siros' stuff, like I honestly, and that's how you pronounce your name, right? Like it's Siros, right?
Yeah. It's this weird thing where it's different in different languages. Like in Sweden, I would say Siros, but in English, I just say Siros. So I guess, whatever.
Whatever sounds
whatever
cooler.
Floats your boat.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call you Siros just because I like pronouncing it that way.
Do it, man.
It sounds cooler to me. But
sure.
So for you guys who haven't heard of Siros before, this guy has, been basically just shooting to the top in terms of the drumming world. I mean, if you ever open your Instagram app and you just type in drums, Siros is going to pop up almost immediately at the top. Like if not the top, definitely like top 3 of discovery videos, just because you have a couple series that have become really well known. But I think your most well known one to this day is probably the drum fill of the day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. A fill of the day, hashtag fill of the day or whatever. And I mean, I'm not the only one doing that. It's just this thing where when I started, like my first couple of videos were just, just playing, nothing special. And then I figured like actually the way I got into that was I just wanted to do like a mini series. I wanted to do 3 days of just demonstrating a fill slow and then playing it fast and then in a context like super quick. Back in the day, the good old days, Instagram 15-second videos.
Yep.
Quite a tight time frame to work with, but then and that was video. I think videos were only just a thing on Instagram then, because if I'm not mistaken, they didn't even have videos at the start. But yeah, I did 3 days of that, and then after 3 days, I was like, well, this was pretty cool. Let's keep doing this, and that ended up being like 50, and I actually started as a lick of the day, slight difference, but whatever. And then from then on, I just kind of found my style in that and realized I like to break stuff down. I like to play it slow, show people what I'm doing, then bring it up to speed and kind of have that wow factor and just kind of jam around with stuff. And there's so many, it leaves me such creative freedom. Like fills is such a broad concept. I can go every day and come up with a new one, and I can make a video out of it. It's long term. It works for me. So I still do it to this day.
I always look at your videos because I'm always trying to make my drum fills a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm curious?
That's cool.
When I say I'm a huge fan, I mean it, dude. Like I love your stuff.
I appreciate it.
Now, I'm geeking out right now. It's super just like, damn, I love this guy. But you know what I'm curious about is your video format. I do remember when you did the lick of the day back when Instagram was still doing 15 seconds, and that's super short, even for nowadays standards. And I think before you like played the fill real quick, and then you broke it down, and that was like you did that in 15 seconds. Now, I love how you basically have upgraded the method. Now, what you do is you play it super slow on each. Or actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I think you play it fast first, then you play it super slow, and then you add it to a groove, and you add that all in 60 seconds. And
yeah,
I guess I'm curious, like,
to.
I mean, you try to, but you do it so well. And so I'm curious as like, how did you come up with that format? Because to someone who is just going to go see your videos right now, they're going to see it and it's going to make sense. They're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Drum fill, slow, fast. And now he's adding it to a beat. Makes sense. But for someone like me who understands the process of trying to create a video, I think Siros had to invent that. Like you had to like figure out what was the best way to squeeze all this information in 60 seconds. So I'm curious if you remember like how that happened.
Like I wish I had like a this is how I did it kind of answer, but it's just like I just sat down and I made a video and it just kind of turned out that way. It's kind of like you said, where I figured I just kind of thought it through real quick. Like I had this little lick I wanted to make my very first that kind of lick of the day video, and I figured okay, I'm gonna show people how to play this little thing I just came up with. So I should probably play it slow, just to really show people, like exaggerate the movements. And it might make sense to play it in a groove as well. And, I might as well play it fast too, because if they only hear the slow version, they're maybe not even going to recognize it in the context. So then it was just, again, 15 seconds is super quick. What I figured, like the main thing that I think is part of what makes me makes my format stand out a little bit compared to other people that do this is that I try to incorporate like a lot of information in the text part of the posts as well. It's not just like I pretty much never do any talking in my videos, at least on Instagram. There's no time for it really. I talk enough on YouTube as it is. So I just kind of try to make the video and play it, demonstrate it super slow, and then in the video description I'll include the sticking kind of different things to keep in mind when practicing this. If there's something tricky about it, or different ways to utilize this, you can expand on it like this or that. But kind of to tie back to what you were asking was it kind of just happened, really. I just figured this is the information I want to give to people. This is how I will have to do it if I want to fit everything in 15 seconds. And then now having 60, like you said, I have changed the format a little bit. Back in the day, it was just slow at first, then fast, and then in a groove. And it was like 2 bars of groove at most, because that's all I had time for. But now, and then that developed into playing it slow and having lots of time with 1 minute, and then playing it fast, and then like even faster, 2 different varying speeds, and then a longer groove solo improv kind of session. And now this format I'm in right now, as of November 2017, might change, but that's the way I'm doing it now. Is I actually play the fill first, super like the full speed, then do a little cheeky little hand gesture, and then I start breaking it down, because I figured starting the video slow just every single video starting slow might not catch people's attention. They might get bored having to wait so long to actually see what the hell I'm playing. So I figured, play the fill at first, full speed, then give them the breakdown. And then, of course, the improv and stuff, context at the end,
Did you try it slow? Like at some point, did you maybe do a video of you playing the fill slow and then maybe it didn't do so well and that to you was like a sign that maybe I need to do it faster to catch people's attention?
No, I think really what turned me around in the first place was actually I made one of these videos a while back, like I think a year ago or something. A couple of 9 months or whatever. Because I just recently got on the endorsement with Minol, which was November 3rd last year.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That
man.
isn't easy, guys. By the way, Minol is it's a cymbal company, a top notch, probably like top 3 cymbal companies in the world.
For sure.
You got Siljan, Sabian, and then you have Minol. They're all like basically at the same level. And to be a Minol artist is a huge accomplishment, man. So honestly, congratulations to you.
Thank you. That's something I strived for so long. So it was so unreal when it finally happened. But I mean, we can talk about that later. But what I was going to say was, I remember I made a video like this one, a fill of the day video, and it got pretty popular. Then it actually made it, playing it slow first, and it was a really long fill. It was like 40 seconds of slow, and then the last 20 were like the actual in context. But I thought that was pretty cool because it had this kind of wait for it kind of vibe to it. But then I sent it to this my contact at Minol. I was like, hey, I'm happy with this video. People seem to enjoy it. Could you share it on the Minol's channels? And he was like, yeah, sure. It's a cool video, but could you flip it? So could you do fast first and then the slow part? And that got me thinking.
Interesting.
I never thought about doing that. It's a simple thought, but I never had it because I always did it the other way around. And then from that point, I started experimenting with shifting. And now these days, I've finally come to this kind of format that I'm doing for now. Again, might change in the future, but for now, that would be playing it fast, then slow, then fast again, and then in context. So it's a constant evolution of it all,
You know what fascinates me is that you were able to take that criticism pretty well, and it wasn't even criticism per se. It was just
it was just like a request more,
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, of course I'll share it if you just flip it around, which I think it's one of those things that you don't really think about.
No.
You just do it, you execute, and then someone suggests, hey, maybe just switch it around. And you're like, hey, actually, that makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
It's crazy. So let me ask you this. I know you said that you did the 3 days first of the fill thing, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, you kept doing it a couple times. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, do you remember the specific moment, or was there a specific moment in time, like a month or a couple weeks, where you started noticing a significant amount of people that took notice to this series, the whole fill of the day? Because I remember, I'm pretty sure I've been seeing your stuff since the very beginning, but I remember it was around maybe 2015 or 16 that I literally started seeing your stuff every single day appear everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious if maybe you remember when you noticed that happened, if that makes sense.
No, it's one of these things where it's been it's been a up and down kind of ride where it's been very exponential. From the beginning things were slow and then things started picking up. But there wasn't necessarily a huge turning point or anything. It's been very slowly growing exponentially. I was going to say up until pretty much recently, and the reason is now these days social media is still a huge part of what I do. It's my main outlet for everything, and my main focal point in my career. But these days it's I aim for social media in a different way. In the past it was more about I have to maximize my effectiveness. I want to grow as much as possible. Now it's more I kind of want to make what I enjoy making, and I know the people that already follow me are going to follow me for that anyway. It's more about the true followers now than just numbers. So it's kind of, you see what I mean? It's where it's been kind of slowly growing, and then it slows down for a while, and then it starts growing again. It just depends on what's in my pipeline at the moment. But to really answer your question, no, there really hasn't been a huge turning point. I guess maybe somewhere around 30 or 40,000 followers on Instagram is where it kind of started picking up. But then coming up to 50 and 60, it started slowing down again. And since now I'm at almost 79,000, I think, on Instagram. And the last from 70 and up has been really slow compared to what it was in the past. So it just depends on what I'm focusing on at the moment,
Does that ever faze you? I'm curious, like sometimes I can imagine, especially if social media is something that's really big as part of your resume,
Yeah.
when the traction slows down, does that ever get to you at all?
I mean, of course, it's since it is such a big part of what I do. Like I mean, there's this is a whole other chapter, man. We can talk for days about the mental struggle part of things. Like you have no idea. But
Dude, that's what I like. I like getting into that stuff.
yeah, we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, of course, it does phase me. It does get to my head sometimes. So like, oh, I'm posting stuff and no one's enjoying it, and but zoom out a little bit and you realize, so, like, okay, if I have a popular video, like one that kind of really hits on Instagram, sometimes they climb like over 100,000 views, or sometimes like at least anything from like 40,000 and up is like good for me these days. And even my regular videos that maybe aren't anything super special, I'm just kind of posting for the sake of posting a groove or whatever. Maybe those will have like between 10 and 20,000 views. And for me, that's like, oh, people aren't enjoying what I'm doing. Oh my God, it's so few views. But when you zoom out and you go, that's actually 20,000 views. Like that's, people would die for that, You kind of get complacent. But it's, I mean, it does get to you. But yeah, what I'm saying is it's just kind of, I have to just realize what my focus is. And these days, it's about actually making things happen. Like right now, I'm working on coming to the US in January en route to NAM. I'm going to be my first NAM as well, which I'm really excited about. And I'm just trying to put clinics together. I'm trying to get out there. I'm trying to get gigs. I'm just trying to really, actually get this established more in the industry with help of the social media I've acquired. You see, just aiming on social media doesn't actually get you anything if you can't actually, reap what you sow, So
Exactly.
Now I've kind of changed my focus to, okay, I have my following. Now let's make a use of it. Now let's cater to the people that actually really enjoy what I do, and let's try to make something real happen and not just post videos for the sake of, the dopamine rush of seeing, 50,000 people watch this, It's more than that now.
Incredibly wise words. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I feel like that's something that, well, let me put it this way. Siros, you started in 2014 alongside with me, and I am very fortunate to be friends with like a lot of those guys that we all basically started around the same time. We were like the first generation of musicians that came up on Instagram.
Much, yeah.
Like it's weird when you think about it, and now there's like a new generation of new musicians coming out left and right, but we were like the first batch. And, for me, like it really hit home like around 2016. I got burnt out because I was just posting way too much, and I had to take a break. But I really realized right away, with social media, with the exception of maybe YouTube, but in general, for the most part, there isn't a lot of money in getting a video that is viewed 100,000 times. It's an amazing feat. It's ridiculously amazing and hard to do. But what a lot of people don't stop to think is that we're not getting paid for that. Yeah, it was cool, but you're not getting $100,000.
Exactly. And no, that's the thing. Like people that I usually more like, my local friends and whatever, people that are not at all musicians, whatever, old like high school classmates or whatever that, you talk to sometimes, they go like, oh, this is so cool. You're doing all this social media stuff. Like, does Instagram pay you or whatever? And I'm like, no, I don't get it. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter how many followers I have, unless I'm like Kim Kardashian. I'm not going to get any money from Instagram. It's just this kind of thing where, again, it's a matter of reaping what you sow. It's like, okay, I have all these followers, like it's almost 80,000 people that in some way or shape or form are interested in what I do because they cared enough to click the follow button, right? And this is Instagram only. Like combine everything, we're looking like 110,000 people. So it's a lot of people, and all of those, from a business standpoint, are potential customers, right? I can make educational videos. I can make sheet music. I can do whatever, and try to kind of get my fans to purchase stuff and support me. And that's where you need to be smart about things. You need to still be like this cool guy that people follow for the sake of following. Of like they get their little daily dose of free fill lesson, or just kind of enjoy watching a drummer they look up to. But it's also a matter of like, I need to actually make that sustainable. I need to be able to get up every day and have my entire day dedicated to just making videos. But if I don't get any money to pay my rent, that's not going to happen. So you need to, it's just a balance of everything,
Absolutely. And you know what I really liked about what you said there specifically, it's, well, personally, from what I understood, it's like a balance, with everything in life. And it's something that I've come to learn with a lot of the musicians that I speak to. It's a balance, that there's a first step with social media, which I am always gun ho for, which I think social media is incredibly essential nowadays for any musician. Like
Absolutely.
you need it
Yeah.
regardless, and how much effort you're willing to put in is really up to your own interpretation. But at a certain point, no matter what career you're in, whether it's in music or in art or, whatever, you do get to a point where you have to start asking yourself like, all right, getting traction and getting seen is one step and that's great and all. But now at this point, I have to figure out how to convert this traction that I'm getting into a livelihood.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to bands doing it's kind of similar to bands, playing like in the beginning, just starting out, like playing for exposure or whatever, not caring about getting paid. They just want to get their name out. But at some point, if people start showing up for your shows, you've gotten your exposure. At some point, you got to actually make something out of it. You got to start switching to paid gigs. You got to start looking for other options. I think it's the same approach where you have to start somewhere. You have to do stuff for free. You have to, like in the beginning, I was doing session work more or less free, or just asking like $20 to record like 2 songs, just for the sake of getting my experience. I got better at it. I got better at negotiating. I got better at stating my price, knowing rather what I'm worth, and being able to record efficiently and just that kind of stuff. And nowadays, I charge way more to record because now I'm comfortable in knowing I can do this well. But I wouldn't be here in just session work, just as one thing to talk about, if I hadn't done all of that work for cheap or even for free in the beginning. So it's it's this constant, like, again, it's kind of the same thing as with the exponential growth of your followers. It's an exponential growth of yourself along the way as well. You learn so much in the process if you're willing to learn.
Was it difficult for you to transition from doing like free stuff to start charging people, even if it was only a little bit of amount?
Yeah.
I know for some people, like it can be a little bit daunting, and I'll put myself in that category too. Like I remember when I started, I didn't know how to ask people, to pay me for stuff. And so I'm curious, like, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that was a big struggle. And to an extent, it sometimes still is. Like I'm just now getting, like, I've been doing this for 3 years, but I'm kind of just now starting to realize what I can ask for in terms of, I like now it's like, okay, I know what I want to ask for gigs. I know what I want to ask for session work. But now I'm getting into clinics, and it's like, okay, in the past I've done clinics for free. Now I feel like I'm getting better at it. Okay, time to start charging. How do I figure this out? So you see, it's the same kind of thing as when I was starting out and I was doing Skype lessons. Like I remember doing 30-minute Skype lessons. It was like, okay, the first one is free, and then from there on it's like $10, and then. Guess how many people just took the first lesson and didn't come back? Everyone. And then so you see, but then I had to realize, like, okay, now I've gotten my practice, I've gotten better. Now let's charge a little for Skype lessons, and then the rates have gone up, and because it's not a matter of like, let's see how much money I can milk from this. It's more a matter of I feel I can provide, quality of content for this amount of money. Are people willing to pay it? They should be, because if not, like they shouldn't be taking lessons from me. I'm worth more than that, You have to kind of assess your positions like that sometimes. So it's just ever evolving, really.
And do you remember like when you started to switch your mindset towards that? Because it's a process that builds up, as you get more confidence, as you do more stuff, like you suggested, you start to believe in yourself more and understand that you are worth something. So I'm curious, like, was there a period of time when you were, starting to get a following, starting to get more well-known, that you decided like, hey, you know what? I am worth to get paid X amount or something like that. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So that would be mostly in the realm of like Skype lessons and stuff, because the gigging part of my life has really been like this last year, pretty much a little bit, like a year and a half is where I played like a lot with this tribute band here in Sweden. Like we play almost every weekend. We're playing Friday, Saturday this week, and with those guys, I have my set pay. I pretty much always get paid the same, and it's kind of that kind of thing. So with gigs, it hasn't really been an experience like that. It just kind of happened. I just kind of stumbled into finding what my worth is, and I'm happy with those rates. But when it comes to Skype lessons, yeah, for sure, it was this kind of, I guess somewhere around maybe towards the beginning of like 2016, the end of 2015, around there. I just came home from having done my first clinics ever for free over in the United States, which was a really cool experience, real learning experience. Coming back from that, I started to realize, okay, I'm actually kind of getting out there now. I'm kind of getting out of my drum room and actually doing stuff, time to start figuring out what I'm actually worth, you know? I guess somewhere around that time period is when I actually started thinking about, okay, what am I worth? What can I charge for in terms of teaching mostly? Studio work and that kind of stuff is also just kind of, it's just a natural kind of path, you know? There hasn't really been any huge turning points. It's all just been, you know, methodical growth. It's just kind of happened, you know?
Yeah, and you know what? I keep on asking these questions because it fascinates me. Like, I love understanding how people grow and what it is that they do that helps them to learn. And the one thing I've always the pattern that I see a lot is that it comes from experimentation. It doesn't matter,
absolutely.
you know, what exactly. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. What I've noticed is everyone just keeps telling me like, oh yeah, you know, I tried A didn't work. So then I tried B, and then B kind of sort of worked. And then I went on to C and D. And by the time I got to, you know, like G, I finally had figured out a pattern.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I highly try to recommend and suggest to, you know, any fans that I have or any friends that I advise. It's that, you know, a lot of them think that there's answers right up front, which there are, but it's not that easy because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think if there's any takeaway from what you're suggesting or what you're saying is that be open to that experimentation. Everyone's going to figure out the answers to everything in different times, but you have to be willing to go in and try a little bit at a time.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you just keep on at it. And at some point you'll figure out the pattern and the process that works for you in whatever we're talking about, whether it is figuring out how to get paid, whether it is figuring out your social media or how to get gigs. Like, it's about experimenting.
I wanted to say that too, you know, money and actually, you know, making a living from it, all of that stuff aside, I want to tie back a little bit to when I started. You know, I was saying, when I started, the reason I got on social media in the first place because like the main mantra I had was I want to make a name for myself. That was the one thing on my priority list. Everything else was secondary and leading up to that. You know, that's the main vision. I want to make a name for myself. So doing that, I realized I cannot afford painting myself into one corner. I was much of a metal drummer back then, which I'm really not at all anymore. But metal was my thing in the beginning, but I kind of realized, okay, I don't want to play just metal, so I'm not going to brand myself as the metal guy. Instead, I'm going to try to keep my horizons open. So I started to branch out into different stuff, started to explore my own style and move out of painting myself into one genre or one kind of thing. Same thing with, you know, in the beginning with the Fill of the Day stuff. The first couple of weeks, I was just trying stuff out. I made a video about this and I made a video about that. And I figured, okay, let's try this little mini series. Coincidentally, like the first little mini series I did was the one that has stuck with me. Might not happen for everyone, but I was lucky enough to find my thing pretty quick. But the point is, I experimented. And even since then, that's been the one thing that I tried to keep consistent, is being like the fill guy, which is in the beginning, especially what I was known for, was the one thing that made me stand out, and the one thing that made me actually gain a following was because people knew what to expect when they came to my page. There's a reason it was called Fill of the Day in the beginning, because I was doing one every single day, no exceptions unless I really had to make an exception, you know? And from there, it's been, I realized I had to do it that consistently in the beginning, find my niche, experiment, find your niche, just work like crazy, like triple down on that. But then with time, once you, again, it's kind of the same thing as I'm in right now, just in a smaller format where I know my true followers will stick with me anyway. Now I can afford to put my focus on some other things while still keeping a bit of that fill stuff going to, you know, keep people happy and, you know, do my thing. It's still my style. But you see what I mean? Where it's like with time, I started doing more. I started doing vlogs on YouTube. I started doing other kinds of video. I started moving away a little bit from the fill thing. And I think it's important to do that. Just broaden your horizons and experiment, because now with time I've realized what I'm really about, which is at the end of the day, I just like inspiring people. And fill lessons and that kind of stuff is the main way that I do it, but it's not the only way. It was in the beginning, but now it's not, because now I know what it's really about, you know? And I wouldn't know that if I didn't experiment along the way. I would still just do fills for the heck of it and be like, oh, people enjoy this. I get the most views from doing this. Let's do it. And if I don't try anything else, I'm not gonna evolve as a drummer or a human being for that matter.
Unbelievably wise, man, because, okay, so this is one of the questions that I get a lot, especially from friends that, that are close to me that want to be doing this, a lot of the times, and even from fans too, they're like, hey, I have all these ideas, and I do all these different things and I want to post them all. How should I go about it? How should I know what to post and stuff? And what I liked about what you said is that you said triple down on what you like to do. And I think you found out right away that you enjoyed doing the fill of the day. Otherwise, you probably would not have done it.
Yeah.
As much
again,
as you did.
I coincidentally just found my thing pretty quick, and I encourage people to really take the time to find their thing. And I do this kind of career mentoring stuff with a lot of drummers as well, where I guide people through this kind of jungle of figuring themselves out. At the end of the day, it's a lot of self exploration and all of this. But again, the mental part of it, it's just, dude, it's overwhelming. But I do a lot of this mentoring stuff with people over Skype these days, and like the main thing that I often find myself stressing is that let the experimentation phase in the beginning, let it take its time. Don't rush finding a niche. I know I'm pretty sure this is fact. Might have just heard it somewhere, but I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Jojo Mayer, fantastic drummer. But he, from what I've understood, like now these days, he plays in this band, the Nerve, playing this kind of electronic kind of thing. That's his thing, and he's incredibly good at what he's doing. But from what I've understood, that was not what he was doing for the longest time. He took 40 years to find his thing. And if Jojo can take 40 years to truly find what he's all about, then, why are you in a rush to find your thing in 2 weeks? So just take your time in the beginning, post different videos, explore areas you're not comfortable with. Eventually, you'll kind of figure out what it's all really about. What do you really enjoy? Figure out a format, figure out a way to stand out. Don't be a drop in the ocean, and then start grinding. From there on, establish your fan base, and then you can start exploring again. Once you kind of maybe get tired of what you're doing, you want to open your horizons. Your fans will stick with you if they enjoy you more as a person now than just as the video, like the actual content. It has to be more about you being a relatable person, not just about your videos. But you see what I mean? This is just a journey of self-exploration, and just daring to go out on a limb sometimes and just kind of see what happens if I try this.
Okay, why are you so smart, dude? This is amazing. I love everything that you're saying. Okay, because first of all, you're absolutely right. I think the process, the way you just laid it out, is perfect. And the same goes for anything. It's not just necessarily just playing drums. Sure. It's literally almost any successful person. All these guys that do different things and that have very, vastly different characters, they all have the same, thing in common, is that they loved the failure process.
It's the same blueprint, and it's also like the key word there is love. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like you said it well, like loving the failures, like the way that you have to embrace failure and learn from it. And if you're just doing stuff right, you're not going to get anywhere, like in the beginning, because there's probably maybe one thing that you do right, and if you do that over and over, you're not going to get anywhere. Like the same thing when you're practicing drums. Like if you keep playing stuff and you go, oh, this sounds great, I keep playing everything right, you're not going to learn anything. You're just repeating yourself. You're not actually practicing. Same kind of thing.
Exactly. Here. I know it's intimidating, especially nowadays with social media being so powerful and constantly being exposed to so much good content. I mean, now with YouTube and social media, it's just taking completely over. And I can see how it can be intimidating for anyone that wanted to start, let's say today. They see you and they see like some of my stuff and they see other people's stuff that's really good. And they're just like, how am I going to compete? Yeah. Well, that thought process right there is already bad, in my opinion, because your approach to yourself shouldn't be, how am I going to compete? Yes, that's a very vital step, but that's not the first step. No. I think the first step is figuring out who you are, what you like to do, and what you're good at. And you can't figure that out. If you already know, awesome, then move on to the next couple of steps. But if you don't know, if you just know that you like playing music and you're trying to figure out what it is, experimenting is incredibly important. And if you skip that step, then it's going to be a lot harder. And you may actually even become successful, but then people will maybe start liking a couple of things you do, but they won't like you as a person. And that is the key of success, in my opinion, to social media, is the people that truly do it right, like yourself, Siros, is the people that really show who they are, what they stand for, what they triple down for. And then the people that relate to that will stick to that. With you, for example, they see your stuff, they know what you've tripled down on, and they come back for more because that's what they like about you. But you put the effort, you put in the time to figure that out. And like you said, you figured out your niche pretty early, and that was a lucky strike. And it might happen for some people, might not happen for some other people. But again, even using your Jojo Mayer example, is that he used to be a jazz guy, actually, if I'm not mistaken. He used to play a lot of jazz back in the days. And then he just kept experimenting and inventing himself. And then
just ended up like pioneering electronic music as a drummer.
Exactly. Exactly. I know I'm rambling, but like one of those things that I just can't stand is a lot of people, and you know what? I've done this too. I'm not going to put myself out of that category. It's so easy to focus on the end game. You know, it's so easy to see someone like Jojo Mayer, someone like you, and be like, wow, 80,000 followers. Wow, drummer for Nerve. That's amazing. He's clearly a genius. Yeah. But people fail to really analyze the 3 years that it took you to get to this point, to analyze the 40 years that it took Jojo Mayer to get there. And you ever start to think about, what was Jojo Mayer when he started? You know, what was he thinking about when he started? Like, what happens on a regular Monday 20 years ago when he was not necessarily what he has now, but he was practicing, he was like doing jazz and stuff. Do you really think he was constantly pressuring himself to like, you know, like, oh, I need to be in Nerve? Like that probably wasn't even in his mind. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I love about what you said, is that you basically suggest triple down, experiment, figure yourself out, and just keep going, keep adding from that point. Yeah.
Momentum is very important, I want to say as well. That's like in the beginning when I was doing this fiddle of the day or lick of the day, again, is where it actually started, that little mini series that turned into 50 full days. That was me realizing as well that like the very first couple of videos I did, I actually used to like stock up on videos. And like I made, you know, I stood a drum room, filmed, sat for a while, filmed like, you know, a couple of different angles, made, you know, like 3 or 4 videos. And I was like, okay, good. I'm set for the week. And I would sit home, be complacent, and not do anything, you know. And then I realized, okay, I'm from the outside, I'm very active, but I'm just sitting at home playing video games all day. What am I doing with my life? So I started making just one video at a time, and I still do that unless I know I'm going somewhere. Then I would stock up like for the weekend just to know that if I'm not at home, I'll still have videos to post. But if not, I make one video. I mean, then I would religiously do it per day. I tried to never skip a day. Again, these days, not so much. I'm focusing more on different things. Social media growth is not my key. The key thing I'm striving for right now might be later. I might want to pick that up again. But it's like I was really trying to keep up momentum. I would post every single day. If I had school all day, or actually not school, but if I had work all day, come home from work, go straight to rehearsal with some band I was playing with, and then come home. It's like 9 p.m. I didn't have a video. I would still go to my drum room, sit down, and make a video because I knew I had to. I made myself do it. I wanted to do it because momentum. You know, I needed to keep posting every day and just push myself out there. Because if I could get past that first threshold of just kind of getting a little bit of recognition and also learning the habit and learning to get better, because every time I make a video, I learn how to film, I learn how to record, I learn how to mix, I learn how to edit, post, be efficient, and actually play better too. You know, if I do that every day, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get out of this swamp I'm currently dwelling in. I'll get somewhere else in a couple of months from now. And keeping that approach is very important, I think, especially with social media growth, but with anything really.
Momentum is incredibly important. And I'll even expand on what you said a little bit. I think it's that discipline too, because I definitely did what you used to do as well. Like I used to go to the practice room and stuff, and for like once a week, super early, and just film for like 4 hours. And then you get tons of content. You know, you can split that up whichever way you wanted. But I completely agree. It got so easy to, you know, be complacent with that. And you know what? Let me even say this before I say any further. It's all about what you want to do. You know, I think you wanted to be the best you could possibly be. If you are filming, if anyone listening is filming like once a week and that's your style, that's your process, dude, by all means, own it. But what I like about you though, is that you clearly were not satisfied with what you were outputting. You wanted something more. You wanted to improve. And so you took the steps to ensure that you were always at the top of your game. And maybe it meant spending more time, especially having to do it every single day. It's hard. It's hard to do it every single day. But you disciplined yourself and you made that choice to tell yourself, all right, look, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be time consuming, but if I'm going to get better, if I'm going to make sure I'm at the top of my game at all times, I need to do this every day. And without hesitation, you took that choice. You took that step. And I think that's something everyone should be aware of, is to be aware of how far you're willing to go. And if you're not happy of where you're at or how you're outputting or what you're performing, then consider adjusting and taking that step to making it harder for yourself, but that helps you improve. But again, if you're chill with what you're doing now, that's fine. But again, I commend you for that choice, Siros, because that's not easy to do, to have that discipline.
And I want to fill in as well and mention the fact that not everyone is actually capable of doing it. I'm not saying capable as in they're not mentally strong. I mean capable as in actually maybe they don't have a drum room that they can go to anytime during the day. You know, maybe they work all day long. They can only go once per week to record. Again, I do a lot of social media mentoring and career mentoring, and there's a lot of people that have this issue. Like, they don't have the time, they don't have the opportunity. And then it's a different story, because then you have to be really smart about your time. Then it's totally fine if you have one afternoon in the week where you're completely off work, you have no place to be, nothing on your schedule. By all means, go and bust your ass off shooting 10 videos to keep stocked up. But if you do have the time, and that's what I'm saying. Like me, I was working in elderly care, like a part-time job. I could get work whenever I wanted. It's elderly care; they always need personnel. So, and it's like I could sign up for when I wanted to work, and if I knew I had rehearsal or a gig or anything, I just wouldn't sign up. And if they called me, I could say no, and they couldn't force me. So basically, work never got in the way of what I wanted to do. So if I wanted to prioritize playing drums and maybe not so much prioritize getting money, I would not sign up for work, and I would spend all day recording, because I had this drum room, 24-hour access. I'm not disturbing anyone. It's a rented space, so for me, it was very convenient. And I want to say I have been privileged in that regard. I know a lot of people don't have that. Point is, make the most of what you have. If you do have the opportunity to play every single day, you should. Like, if you really want to get somewhere, you should. But whatever works for you, figure it out. Find your way.
Exactly. Find your way, man. That's got to be your tagline, man. The find your way, because
Put that on t-shirt.
Exactly, man. It's true. Like, you're absolutely right. Everyone's path is different. I mean, both you and I are privileged to some extent. I think all of us that are listening are probably privileged. I mean, the fact that you can hear, we can go as far as we can. The fact that you can even hear sound is a privilege on its own.
Absolutely.
But I definitely want to nail in what you said is, use what you have. And use it to its full capacity, whether it's one day a week, whether it's an hour a week, whether it's every single day out of the week. Use all the resources, because you have exactly what you need to propel you to the next step. It's just about, being in that mindset and being like, all right, I only have an hour, but you know what? I'm going to make the best out of this hour. And guess what? As you do it more, you're going to get more and more efficient. And that hour, you're going to be able to fit more stuff in. And then who knows? Maybe you'll be able to get 2 hours and 3 hours and, so on and so forth.
And what you said too about making the most of what you have, that really goes for gear as well. And this is also one of these things where, like I said, in the beginning, working elderly care, like I had my income. I was still living with my parents in my parents' house at the time. I really had no expenses. I could save up all the money I gained and just throw it onto my kit and just get all the stuff that I wanted. And so in that regard, yes, I was very very privileged. I appreciate the fact that I had it that easy in that regard. Easy enough, at least. But my point is, like, even with that, I've always just worked with what I had at the time. I still, kid you not, I edit my videos. Every single video you see from me, I edit in Windows Movie Maker, because I've done it from the beginning. That's what I started with. I'm fast in Movie Maker. It's easy. I just put my video in, I edit, I add the audio, I cut the length, I sync the video and audio, and done. It takes me 5 minutes to put together a fill of the day video. In editing, even less. So it's just, I started with that. I started with 2 overheads, a kick, and a snare mic. No experience at all in mixing or recording or anything. I just started there. My drums didn't sound very great. I had a mix of cymbals. Some were broken, some were decent. And just kind of Movie Maker, and here we go. And with time, because I knew if I just focus on the one thing that's always going to be consistent, that I'm always going to have with me, and that's me. if I focus on developing myself, that's going to be the one tool that's always going to be with me. Everything else is interchangeable. I can get new mics. I can take new classes in recording. I can learn about this and that. I can change my gear. Audio and video is always going to get better with time, even as technology progresses. But you have to develop alongside, I think it's very important to keep that in mind.
Exactly, man. And I think, man, I love this episode already. I mean, we're not even done with it yet. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is so much. I'm in love with this right now because it's so true. I think you as your own individual, and I'm just honestly repeating what you're saying because this is something I had to learn this too. Like I learned this the hard way a couple years ago. And it's something I'm always going to be learning even to the day I die is that yourself, take away the drums. Take away all the things that you have, and all you're left with is yourself. You're the best tool you're ever going to have. And I think as long as you're always willing to improve who you are, if you have that mindset of, I need to better myself, just for me, just for the sake of just improving yourself of who you are, then you can literally go anywhere you want, because that's the key thing. I mean, imagine like if Siros, if you weren't a drummer, if you were something else, like a lawyer or, I don't even know, a doctor or whatever. Like if you had chosen a different profession, you would still have that same approach. You'd still have that same, like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go home and YouTube how to open up this body a certain way, probably horrible example.
I was going to say, I would have that approach if I enjoyed what I was doing.
Exactly.
That's very important. That's the reason I didn't keep studying engineering, which I was studying for in school. I decided to take a year off from school and just try music. And if it worked out, I would keep doing it. If it didn't work out, I would keep studying. I would take the path that maybe I'm not super happy with, but I'll manage, But the one thing that has kept me going is that I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to be my own boss, wake up whenever I want, go to sleep whenever I want, structure my days as I like, let my creative juices flow and just kind of see what I can do. Of course, there's a lot of, again, coming back to the mental struggle of everything, it's not easy. It really is not. It's very, it tears on your mentality a lot. But it gives me the freedom to do what I enjoy. And if I didn't enjoy this, if I didn't have a passion for it, I wouldn't force myself to go play. Why would you force yourself to do something you don't enjoy if you have the option not to do it? So it's just very important that you love what you do. If you don't, you need to find a way to love it, or you need to find a different path because it's just not going to work out.
So wise, man. Exactly. It's either A or B, black or white. You either like it or you don't. You either allow yourself to like it or you move on and try something new. That's honestly the best way I can put it. And you know what? I'm curious. I'm not sure if I'm able to ask you, but as an independent, your own boss type of guy, I definitely understand how, mental stuff can get to you. Can I ask you, like, what are some of the things that you have gone through or are currently going through that were just intense or like, were a little hard to deal with mentally, but you got through? Is there anything that comes to mind?
The self-doubt is always a thing, like we touched on it a little bit earlier, like, posting videos and just looking at the views and going, oh, people are not enjoying this. Oh, am I doing something wrong? It can be very self-crippling. So I think like the biggest thing that has been an issue for me that has reoccurred a lot of times, and, to an extent is always with you, is this kind of identity crisis kind of thing. I know I've had some like almost breakdowns in the past where I've been like, who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm posting videos on Instagram for what? Like, what's my identity? Do people even enjoy what I'm doing? That kind of thing. You just sit down and you just, like, oh, well, you just come, like crying in the corner of the shower. Maybe not really, but you see my point.
I do.
It's just kind of this thing of like, who am I? And I've had that kind of identity crisis many, many times in different, in varying degrees. But that's just something that's always with you, is you have to find a balance, like strike this balance between what you enjoy doing and what also makes sense for your career to move forward, to keep doing what you enjoy doing in the long run. It's just, it's mentally challenging. Again, it tears on your psyche to be your own boss at all times and also be your own hardest critic,
Yeah. Is there anything that you remind yourself of or that you think of? And I ask this because I go through this all the time, and I'm sure any creative person goes through self-doubt, especially
For sure.
if you're putting yourself out there. I mean, it's just part of the package.
Absolutely. It is.
I'm curious, like, how do you get through those moments? I'm not sure how long they last, or I'm not sure if they like only last for a moment, but like, is there something you remind yourself of, or do you have like a specific thing that you do to just get yourself through it, or is it just kind of go away on its own?
I mean, it's still something that I am struggling with. Like just the other day, the last couple of days since like this week, basically, or well, actually, never mind. It's Tuesday today. Like I have no track.
Technically Wednesday for you. Technically Wednesday
every day is just a weekday. No, but since coming home from last weekend's gig, so I came home Sunday afternoon. Since Sunday afternoon, the last 2 days, I haven't had like any strive to do anything. I've just been so down. I've been like, okay, I have all these things I want to do. Like it's just I had too much pressure on me. I'm working on all this United States, the clinic tour, and I have some videos I would really want to make. I have some deadlines I want to keep, not because I have to, but because it would be beneficial for me to do these things in a certain order. And that just got to me the last couple of days that I felt like it's just overwhelming. So instead of grabbing a hold of it, I've just kind of I just pace around at home like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't feel like it, And then what I usually do whenever that happens is I just try to like accept it for what it is. Like, okay, I'm not feeling it right now. Stop forcing yourself to try to enjoy something that you're obviously not into right now. So I just try to disconnect it. I sit home. I spend time with my girlfriend. I play video games. I, do anything else. Because I know that's the one thing that I know is consistent with me in this kind of stuff is if I don't play drums, if I don't do anything, if I don't reply to comments, I don't reply to messages, I stay totally inactive on my career side of things. If I don't do anything for a couple of days, I will get a huge urge to just come back strong. Because that happens every time. If I don't touch social media for a couple of days, I'm dying on the inside just to go shoot videos and, just do my thing again. If I stay away for a couple of days, I will get that surge back. But I need to stay away in order for that to happen. If I stay in that limbo state of trying to do things but not really wanting to, I'm just going to spend weeks not really getting anything done. It's important to step away sometimes.
Dude, how true. This reminds me a little bit of, I interviewed Elise Tro a little earlier this year. And in our conversation, we had a very similar section where she was basically saying how sometimes it does get a little overwhelming having to do not just necessarily social media, but like life in general. Just like getting the artist lifestyle is not easy. It's hard, especially because I think the thing that makes it hard is because you're exposing your craft, you're exposing what you love so that the world can enjoy it. And it takes a huge toll on you. And I think there is this huge like pressure that we put on ourselves to constantly be outputting, to constantly be, at 100%. But there's this comic book strip that I actually have read before, and I've suggested a couple people to read it, and I'm not sure if you have heard it, but it's called The Oatmeal. It's really big on Facebook. And essentially the creator, he, aside from making comic book strips, like he from time to time will release like small little drawings that have inspirational quotes on it. And not so long ago, he released like a little book where he just drew pictures of himself and he just basically wrote like a story. And he explained in this like very cute, adorable story how creating is essentially like breathing, where you're constantly, it's this constantly in and out. Where you're constantly, outputting and inputting into your body. But what the trap that a lot of creatives and artists get into is that they get this pressure, like myself and like yourself, that we constantly have to be doing stuff. If we're not on it, that we're just not going to do anything. But if it's like breathing, if you're constantly exhaling, you're going to die. Yeah. Like you're just going to deflate. And so there's definitely time for output. But exactly what you said, if you're not feeling it, I personally think that's your brain or your heart or whatever telling you it's time to just, take a step back for a second, take a deep breath. And then you're absolutely right. When you take that breath, you're able to come back twice as strong as you were before. Because if you're just kind of half-assing it, if you're just kind of half in it, you're not going to do that great of a job and you're going to start hating it. It's important to step away, to take that time for yourself.
Absolutely.
Man, dude, like honestly, like I love this conversation. I'm blown away because I love talking about this kind of thing and I love resonating because this is something I had to learn the hard way. And I'm glad that you went through your own different motions. And I just hope that this helps someone like out there that's trying to do this, like just get up and just try it, or whatever step they're in, to just keep going at it, because it's amazing, especially what you've achieved and the way you approach it mentally. Like I'm amazed, dude. I really am.
Appreciate it.
So, okay. So before we even end, like, I'm curious, I don't mean to sidetrack just a bit, because I think we have plenty of great content here. Like, I could end it right here, and this episode would be just perfect.
I was gonna say though, I know you had some stuff you wanted to cover, and I was like, we've gone off the rails completely. But man, is there anything like completely not related to what we talked about so far that you want me to fill in on? Let's do it.
Dude, you know what? This conversation was perfect, and that's what I love about podcasting. Is I love getting to know my guests, and I love talking about things that inspire you, and that's the importance of this conversation was just that, and we achieved that. But the one thing I am curious about, that if there's anything else that we can talk about, it's this. Like, I'm very curious about that Meinl endorsement, because I'm a huge Meinl fan. I love the symbols, and like we were saying in the beginning of the episode, Meinl is a huge step. Like, being able to be recognized by Meinl as worthy of being an artist, it's a huge milestone, and so it's well deserved, my friend. Like, honestly, I mean that.
Appreciate it.
And I'm curious, like, how that happened. If you could just walk us through, like, real quick, how it is that you became a Meinl artist.
Okay, so here's the thing: you want the short story, the middle story, or the long one?
Ooh, I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. You decide. How about you decide?
Okay, I'll just get started. We kind of see what happens. No, remember we've been talking about finding your thing and just kind of doing your thing and putting yourself out there. And remember how the main focal point of my entire career from the start was to just make a name for myself in whatever way I could. I just want to get out there, and I want to let the opportunities come to me. And that's also something I don't chase for opportunities. Same thing with Meinl. Or even with other companies or whatever, like these days, for example, like I love playing, Promark and Evans. Those are two companies I look up to very much. I'm not endorsed by them. I would love to be, but I'm not pushing myself onto them like, hey guys, endorse me. I'm just doing my thing, and I know with time, if they feel like they want to work with me, they will. But and the same approach was this with Meinl. I've always made sure, I tag them in my posts and make sure to. The thing is, like, in general, just endorsements, you have to realize you need to offer them something before they can even start thinking about offering you anything. That's the thing a lot of people miss out on about endorsements. I've had people, send me messages like, oh, now that you're a Meinl artist, like, can you talk to them and have them send me some stuff? I'm like, no, dude, does not work like that. Would you send a stranger part of your hard work, just for free?
Yep.
Sure, you wouldn't. So why would they? It's a matter of, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but it's a matter of like, just, you have to give them value before they can give you anything back. I think that's true for social media in general. Remember how talking about, I do my educational videos, the fill of the day stuff. I tripled down and did pretty much just that in the beginning to give people value, because then they will want to follow me. They know that if they follow me, they're going to get this value. They're going to get daily inspiration, daily free lessons. And then with time, they're going to be so invested in me that with time later on, they're just going to enjoy me for what I do. And then I can start branching out and do stuff that I really want to do, because they're still going to be with me. Same kind of approach here. I've always made sure to tag Meinl and all the companies that I use in every post I make. And every now and then I would make, as I was talking about before the Meinl endorsement, and still to this day, of course, I will make posts about, my favorite symbol or my symbol setup or something. Just go like, I love this one, blah, blah, blah. Just, just a little rant about some piece of equipment I'm using. And I make sure I try to get them to see that. I don't spam their inbox and be like, hey guys, it's kind of like, giving money to a beggar on the street and filming it and putting it on social media. It's like, you're not doing it for the sake of actually helping. You're just kind of, you're in it for your own benefit. Right. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm not doing that to just get them to endorse me. I'm doing it because I want to show them, hey guys, I actually care about you and your brand. Maybe somewhere around the longer down the road we could work together, but that's your call, not mine. I'm not hiring myself into your company. You're hiring me at some point, hopefully. That's the approach I've taken. And with that said, I posted those stuff every now and then, and sometimes they'd give me a repost or a little like and go like, hey, here's a repost from. Eventually, I remember moving into the friend zone part of my little relationship, because I remember they would sometimes share stuff that I posted and be like, cool repost from our friend Siros, and I'm like, yay, I'm their friend. It's like
nice.
halfway there. And it was like actually kind of halfway there, because then later on, I speaking of posting for the sake of helping, I made a huge video on stacks. Like this was about 2015, so about 2 years ago, and really that's when, like, now you see people using stacks all the time, and it's developed very quickly. Like companies are catching on to that just this year. You notice how Minel released signature stacks, Sabian released stacks, Silgen released stacks. Every company is releasing stacks now.
Yeah.
That's just been a thing that people did in their basement at home, just putting two broken symbols together in the past. And I really love the sound of stacks. So I wanted to fill a gap I was missing on YouTube. I searched for this kind of video and never found anything. So I thought, let's make my own. I made a huge, like 43-minute video. I actually went out and bought symbols for like, a couple of $100 just to, like $500-600 I think I spent just to have some more effect symbols for this video that I would just make. I would combine them in every way I could. I think I got up to like 60 or I think 59 different combinations of stacks.
Wow.
I recorded all of them, just playing grooves, just messing around, demoing them, combined those into a huge video, made it interactable so you can actually, with annotations, they're gone now on YouTube, but you could use them then. Switching, like actually making the like fully indexed video was like the biggest project to this day that I ever made. I spent 2 days without sleep just working on that. And I made that for the sake of filling a gap, like I said, on YouTube. And for Minel, of course, to hopefully see this and be grateful. But that's not what it was all about. And that video was up for a while. It was very, very well received, as you can hopefully imagine, just because it actually did the job of filling a gap people were interested in. My purpose was to actually research, like, give people an understanding of, like, if you combine this and this kind of symbol, you'll get this kind of sound. That was the information I was looking for. I was like, how do I achieve this sound? I don't want to spend thousands of dollars on symbols to experiment. I want to know what to get what sound,
Right.
So anyway, this is the long version, by the way.
I figured though. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to kind of get to the point. I made that video. It was up for a little while. Eventually, Minel noticed it. I remember waking up one morning, picking up my phone, and seeing a message from Norbert, the Minel EU representative, basically the main guy who runs Minel. Pretty much, he has a finger in every pie at Minel. He sent me a message, and I remember waking up in the morning, looking at my phone, and it was like, "Hey, this is Norbert from Minel." I shot out of my bed, like, "Oh my god!" I was so freaking excited. Checked my phone, and the message was like, "Hey, I found that." He said he found my video, and he was very grateful. And he asked me, like, "Did I pay for these symbols? Was I sponsored by anyone? Why did I make it?" Like, he was really curious about why did I put so much effort into this video, seemingly for no real reason other than just making it, And I told him the truth. I wanted to fill this gap. I thought this would be beneficial to people, and I purchased the symbols myself, and I'm happy to do that, He was super grateful, and he actually sent me a thank you gift, and it's over my head right now on my wall. It's a 18-inch Byzance traditional thin crash, signed by all the artists that performed at the Minel Festival in Germany 2015, which I was at. Like, it was just like a couple of months later that he sent me this. And as far as I know, and as far as he knows, there's only 2 of these. One is on my wall, and one is at the Minel headquarters, which was a really big deal. He sent me that as a thank you, and that was my first contact with Minel. Fun fact also, I asked him later when I was actually an endorser last year, first time we really met in person. I actually asked him how did he find that video, and he said he and Annika Nilles were having lunch, and she had found it, and she showed it to him and said, "You should get in touch with this guy," and he did. So it's just funny how the power of social media in that regard. But that was our first contact, and then a couple of months or half a year or a year or whatever later, he reached out back again, like a couple of months later, I think, and just like, "Hey, how's it going?" He was like just checking in on me. Just like he asked some questions like, "Do I make a living from playing drums? Do I teach? What do I do?" And that's where I seized my opportunity, because I realized Minel obviously has some kind of interest in me, right? why would they reach out to me if they're not, and ask these questions if they're not somewhat interested? Why would they do that if I'm just a stranger on the internet? So after the conversation kind of died, I took the opportunity to write back and say, hey, so here's the deal. I love your brand. I love the people. I love everything about your company. Like, I really do. And I was completely honest about that. I've been a huge Meinl fanboy since day one. And I just kind of said that, just truthfully, honestly, like, I know I'm not ready for an endorsement. I don't care about discounts or anything. I'm not after that right now. But I said to him, like, if there's ever anything I can do to help you guys in any way, just let me know. I'd be happy to work with you. I'm not in it for me. I actually just want to be associated with you. And he took that really well. And he said, that's cool. I was already thinking along the same lines. And a couple of months later, he reached back again. We talked more about it, and he suggested, hey, you should demo the stacks we're going to release for next year, the symbols that we're going to release for 2017, the artist concept model stacks, the first ones. And that was actually, the plan was for me to demo those, not as an artist, just as like a fan. And I was obviously super freaking excited for this, which is like a world's first for Meinl to do that with anyone. Have a non-endorser come in to demo their, the actual release videos that would be showed on NAMM, and at like the very first thing that people would see from these new symbols for that year would be me demoing them, not as an endorser. And that was pretty cool. But then next time we talked on the phone about it, we talked about all that, how to make the videos, what they thought would be cool if I included. And they were very cool about that too. They were like, do your thing. We're not going to push an agenda into your videos. Do your thing. Just demo them, respectfully. And then at the end of the conversation, he was like, on the phone, he was like, well, we've been talking about you internally at Meinl here and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I remember he asked, let's see what the question was like. He said he enjoyed the fact that in my videos, I always wrote, like that stack video, for example, I wrote, like, I'm not a Meinl endorser. I'm not paid to do this. I do it because I want to. And he said, that's very cool of you to do that. Imagine, and he asked me, if you were a Meinl artist, do you think you would lose authenticity in your videos? And I was like, okay, this is the $1 million question. How do I answer this? I was like, oh shit. And basically I said what I thought, which was, of course, in a sense, it looks good if I'm not an endorser and I do it. It's truthful. But I show such dedication in what I do in terms of that reviews and that kind of stuff. I only review stuff that I enjoy. You'll pretty much never see me do a review of something I'm not really into, because I don't play gear I'm not into, Yeah. So I only play stuff I enjoy. So I said that, and pretty much like, I think people would enjoy the videos for what they are, and seeing me actually like showing that I care about this stuff. I'm not doing it because I'm forced to. I am honest about what I do. Something, I can't even remember my reply, something along those lines. And he was like, yeah, sounds good. I would like to offer you an endorsement. I was like, what? It was something along those lines. Yeah, it was like the best day of my life. I was so freaking happy. I rushed to my drum room to make an announcement video, made sure I got it posted that same day so Meinl could post it. And, I was just ecstatic. This was, again, November 3rd last year. It's been almost exactly a year now, and it's just been crazy since then. Super long story, but
no, it's the best story. I mean, that's honestly what I wanted to know, because I mean I did see your stack videos, by the way. Like, and for anyone that is not a drummer and listening to this, a stack is actually a pretty cool thing. That's almost a staple nowadays. I remember that. And exactly. I could be wrong, but I believe I first started seeing them used by Benny Greb. That's what I got introduced to. And if you guys don't know what stacks are, it's basically when you just put two or more symbols. I mean, I don't think you put more than two, but two or more symbols like on top of each other. Yeah, hopefully just two. And then you just stack them up, and then it creates a cool effect sound. And it was relatively unknown up until, like you said, like 2-3 years ago. And I definitely remember your video as one of my points of reference of seeing that. And I think it's so cool that you took that initiative to fill in that gap. And the way I see it is, you obviously wanted to be an endorser. Like everybody wants to be a Meinl endorsed artist.
That was one of the big milestones I wanted to reach en route to my main goal, which is just to make a living from playing drums. That was the main goal. Now that I do that, I have other main goals, other big things. I want to get out there. I want to do clinics, yada, yada. But back then, the main goal was I want to make a name for myself. I want to make a living. En route to that goal, the third, like, I guess, biggest thing on my list was I want to be a Meinl endorser. So, of course, I worked towards it, you know?
Exactly. And I think the important thing to remember from your story is that there's big goals and then there's smaller steps to get to that goal. And I think a lot of the times, you know, myself included, I've done this. I always include myself in stuff because any advice I give, trust me, guys, it's because I've been through it and have done those mistakes, is you focus too much on the big picture that you don't focus on the actual path to get
Very
there.
true.
And it's the way to do it, or at least the way that I did it and the way that Siros has done it, is you keep your mind on the goal, you keep the vision ahead of you, but then you keep your head down and you keep going down the path. Because if Siros was constantly pressuring Meinl from the very beginning, even before you were even anybody, I mean, I guarantee you probably would not have gotten endorsed this quickly. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. No,
And
for sure.
you basically did what you had to do and you just kept adding value and you kept being you. You just kept tripling down on what you did well, and you had hopes that one day you would get what you'd want. But in the meantime, you were just going to keep doing you and doing what you thought was right. And look what happened. And I can't stress that enough for anyone that is going down this path. It's perfectly fine to have that goal, to want to be an endorsed artist, to want to be up there. All of us want that. But I think the ones that succeed more often are the ones that recognize that, keep that in the forefront, like they keep it in their mind, but then they triple down on where they're at right now. And they keep going, because that's the important part, is focusing on the now, focusing on the next step. And I think you did that incredibly well, man.
I appreciate it.
Honestly, man, like this is like a second deep breath I'm taking because I love talking about this stuff with you, and you are by far a very inspirational drummer, and you're just going to keep on exploding from this point. Like, guys, again, I can't stress enough, as Siros Vaziri, if you haven't gotten a chance to see his videos, they're incredible. You're not just a great video creator, you're a phenomenal drummer. One of the best I've seen in a long time. And you're only 22, right? Or 23?
Yeah, 23 in like 2 months.
There you go. You're super young and you're already taking over the drumming world. And so I am amazed and I am honored that I got a chance to speak with you. And I guess I'm curious, like, what else is next on your plate? I know you're not focusing on social media right now. You're focusing on expanding a lot of the stuff that you're doing, but is there anything specific other than what you mentioned earlier that maybe you want to achieve in the next couple of years? Like, you have Meinl down. You check that off the list. Is there another really, really huge goal that you maybe want to achieve at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I also want to say with the social media part, if it's always something I'm doing. I'm never abandoning social media at all. I'm always posting, and maybe not as religiously as in the past, like really trying to maximize my growth. That's what I'm not caring that much about anymore. I just post to maintain and of course to grow and to improve as a drummer. But what's really my goals right now, one would be like, kind of as I'm working on right now, is getting out there and doing more clinics, because now I do have a fan base. I do have experience in clinics already. I feel like it's something I want to get a lot better at. I want to really, I just love doing clinics. It puts together everything I enjoy about drumming. I get to teach, I get to show off a little bit, I get to meet fans and followers, I get to interact with people, I get to go places. It's just everything I love. So clinics is like the main thing. I just honestly just want to travel the world and meet people and play drums in a clinic format. It's the main thing I enjoy. With that said, big goals, that's one of them. Also, of course, like I mentioned, Evans, ProMark, two companies that I would love to work with. I have had a little bit of cooperation with them. They sent me some stuff and I've done some reviews and a little bit of that. Nothing official, just doing a little bit of cooperation. I would love to actually be able to work with them properly, like I am with Meinl, later down the road in an actual endorsement. Aside from that, that's the thing. I have no idea where I'm gonna be in 5 years. I really don't. I like one of these things I just keep saying over and over to people I talk to with about this kind of stuff is I don't even know where I'm gonna be the next month, and that I truthfully do not know what's gonna happen for me next month. I could get a message any day saying, hey, you want to come do a tour, and then I'll be gone for half a year. Like, I don't know, it's just, I can't even put myself into my own shoes in a year from now. It's just impossible. But endorsements, clinics, just getting out there, just doing what I love. That's what I'm striving for. And kind of like you were talking about, my big vision the main big vision I had was to make a living from playing drums, and now I do that. And now I guess my main big vision is just to keep doing what I love, and whatever that turns out to be, maybe I'll maybe I'll have changed my path completely in a year or two. I don't know, but I'm sure when I'm at that point, it's going to be what I want to do. So I won't think too much about it. I'll just, like you said, keep my head down, do what I'm working on in the moment, and just kind of see where it takes me.
Amazing. Just wise words. And I think that's probably one of the better ways to approach life, is just to let it take its own path, to keep on doing what you love, tripling down on what you're good at, and just kind of roll with the punches. Whatever happens, happens. You just go with the flow, but you're also controlling it in that way. And I think that's what's made you successful, Siros. And you're gonna be huge, bigger than you already are. I mean, because you're already famous. So,
Thank you.
next time I speak to you, maybe we'll do a follow-up interview in a year just to see what happens. Let's see, next November, let's see what happens in this year that you had no idea what was going to happen. We'll see what happens. And
yeah, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, like, this year, for example, has just been, there's been so many things I had no expectations of that would happen this year and last year and the year before that. Every year keeps surprising me. So I can imagine next year is going to be no different.
Amazing, man. Well, is there anything you'd like to, if there was someone out there, I'm sure there's plenty of people that want to be where you're at or want to, reach their maximum potential in their career, and especially with social media and other things. Is there anything other than what you've already said? Because you've already said tons of inspirational stuff, but if you had to break it down into one summarized little statement, what would you suggest someone that's in whatever state in their career that they're at, but they want to be similar to where you're at? What would you suggest for them to focus on or to do?
Just do it is what I would say. Just get started. That's I had no real hesitation starting out. I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to grow. I knew I wanted to get my name out. I knew I had the means to do so. Again, I was fairly privileged in that regard. I had 24-hour access to my drums and all of that good stuff. But a lot of people get stuck in this kind of thing where they think they can kind of half-ass their way through life and hope that, it's going to work out. But in such a difficult industry, in a sense, and just such a mentally challenging thing, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to figure out ways to take what you love and make it sustainable. But the real, aside, again, this is aside from everything we already talked about, because one of my main points is find a niche, carve out a niche for yourself. You have to stand out. You're just going to be a drop in the ocean. Social media is so saturated. You need to stand out. And everything else that we talked about already. But aside from that, it's just get started. Don't sit at home and dream about what you want to do. I want to. Oh, sorry, I'm cracking up. I want to end on a little funny note. Actually, it's actually a little funny. I don't even know how I'm gonna put it. Okay, It's my name is Siros, right, or Siros or whatever. It's actually fun. I had some friends in back in the day that would call me Miley Siros, like Miley Cyrus, but Miley Siros is
Nice.
a fun thing. I have some friends that actually call me Miley. It's it's like my name for some of my friends. But it's actually funny because I remember, Hannah Montana, that show with Miley Cyrus, the Disney show from a while back.
Yeah.
You maybe the least likely place for me to draw inspiration from, but I'm dead serious in this. I remember turning on my TV sometime when I was I guess 15 or something, and I turned it on, and unfortunately it was on Disney Channel, but I saw it was this Hannah Montana episode I was just watching because I had nothing better to do. And I remember he was in this show having a conversation with her dad, Billy Ray Cyrus or whatever his name is, and she was talking about oh, I want to be famous and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, it's such a difficult industry or whatever, you need to, blah, blah, blah. And she was she said this, and this still sticks with me. It is from freaking Hannah Montana, dude. But
oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah. She said, actually, let me see if I can remember the quote. He said something along the lines that her dad, it's a 1 in a million chance that you'll make it in the music industry, or something along those lines. That was the content of what he said. And she said, that's still one person in 1 million. If other people can do it, why can't I? And that really actually stuck with me from a freaking Hannah Montana show. But that's, I still think like, I think like that. I really do. If other people can, why couldn't I, you know? If other people can start from nothing and carve out a career for themselves in what they love doing, and they can make a living from that and just do their thing and live their life as they want to, why would, what makes me any different from anyone else in that regard? And especially if you have the means to do so, if you have access to your drums, maybe you stay at your parents' house, economy is not a problem, you have things going for you. Why would you not be able to? Just go, just start somewhere, That's probably the weirdest advice you'll ever get on this show, or at least the weirdest, place that it came from. But it's true. That's my main advice.
No, man, that's probably the best, last minute advice I've ever heard. I got to find out what episode from Hannah Montana that was from, and I got to link it.
If you find that, send it to me. I really want to have a throwback and just watch that and go, so this is where it all started.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna make that my mission. I'm gonna find that episode. And honestly, inspiration can come from anywhere. I mean, trust me. I think we're both inspired by random things. I'm inspired by different things on a daily basis, but it's what you make of it. You've honestly done such a great job, and I don't even know what else to say at this point. I think you've said what you needed to say, and I really hope that someone out there, whoever was listening, is just able to get up and just do something. Just get started. Doesn't matter if it's for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, a week. Just focus on getting started and taking it one step at a time, and you'll see you'll reach your own version of success if you're constantly doing that. And Siros, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. Man. Honestly, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you to be on this show. I feel inspired. I'm going to go do some more stuff right now after we're done with this.
Well, it's 1:30 a.m. for me, so I'm going to go sleep. But you,
oh, dude,
you have all day, dude.
You know what, though? We switched. You know what's funny? I'm not sure if you remember, but when I did the first interview for you, it was actually 12 at night here. It was 12. It was midnight where I was at.
I was going to say, right? I think
we switched.
'Cause you did it later in the day.
Yeah, we switched, and then you did it in the morning. It was just, oh man, this whole change of the times is weird. But anyways, man, I'll let you go to sleep. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, man, and I honestly wish you the best.
My pleasure. I appreciate it, man.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Siros. I know that I definitely did, and I'm always learning from my guests. And, he reminded me of some of the issues that I went through, and you know what? I still go through these issues to this day. It's very easy to get caught up in those big goals, to want to be a millionaire, to want to be the best musician. And you know what? It's encouraged. We don't pursue anything without having that major goal in the forefront. You have to remind yourself to pursue the day-to-day and to keep the goal in the forefront, but don't obsess too much over it. Focus on what you can do better next and what you can do today. And remember, everyone's process lasts a different amount of time. Some people achieve their goals sooner than others, but the point is, love what you do, go after it, don't stop, and I guarantee you that you'll reach your goals. So if you like this episode, definitely press that subscribe button because I've got lots of great content coming your way.